Hello, my name is Cheryl Marshall. I am a student at North Carolina Central University in the MSW program, currently interning at Diverse Family Services. And for today's presentation, I will be discussing my program evaluation on their intensive in-home family services. So what is the overall purpose of evaluating in general? So you want to improve practice, you want to look at what's working, what's not working, you want to enhance the success of treatment, you want to look at the services, are they meeting the objectives and the goals, so you're assessing their effectiveness, is it beneficial to the community, and does it provide evidence of effectiveness? And then lastly, you want to build capacity. So does it enhance the skill sets for the staff members providing the service, and does it strengthen accountability on the outcomes? So with measures comes improvement. So you want to look at the goal attainment. The programs are directed by focusing actions on specific outcomes. So you want to know what is the desired results, why is it important, and how can this goal be achieved. So what? Diverse Family Services Intensive In-Home Services is designed to provide therapeutic interventions as preventive measures for keeping children within their home community, minimizing placement disruption, and the need for a more restrictive treatment setting. The why. You want to improve family relations and family preservation. And then the how, by offering clinical practice elements for caregivers, including problem-solving skills and family therapy. So quality management. So Diverse Family Services implemented a quality management plan to track the progress of intensive in-home consumers through analyzing Ohio scale measures conducted at the start and the end of treatment. So my program evaluation will just be an extension of their current evaluation tool. So the evaluation question. How effective is in-home family-based treatment in preventing out-of-home placement post-discharge? So the intent will be to study the effectiveness of an intensive in-home family-based preservation program that is offered by Diverse Family Services, which provides counseling to families who are at risk for immediate out-of-home placement. So the goal of the program and the findings will support decisions to become more efficient in implementing the services. So let's start with our stakeholders. Diverse Family Services is a community-based mental health agency that works with other community-based agencies such as school systems, Department of Juvenile Justice, Department of Health and Human Services. And so in order to create a sense of community involvement, we will host focus groups, one-on-one discussions, and informal meetings to foster feedback from the listed stakeholders. Staff and stakeholders will collaborate in discussion on the strengths and weaknesses of the findings, where the ultimate goal will be to educate and build awareness. So as a program evaluator, I will be able to reflect upon the findings and use the implications and plan ways to put them into use. So that implications and then application. Investment from staff will also be important, as this is vital in looking at the effectiveness of the strategies to ensure not only the idea is effective, but its intended way of implementation is also effective. And so the staff will be the ones implementing this tool, so that's why it's important that they're invested as well. So what we have here is the logic model for Diverse Family Services Intensive In-Home program. And so a logic model is just a picture of what the agency's overall goals and objectives are. And it's important to know how an agency is designed in order to implement a tool to evaluate it. So this logic model just shows the links of outcomes to program activities, to processes, theoretical assessments, and principles. So evaluation design. So the purpose of my program evaluation will be to able to justify the need for performance improvement and ensure that the agency's program interventions align with the overall intention of the provided service. There are 2 evaluation methods that provide a systematic approach when measuring outcomes, but for the purpose of this evaluation, I will be using qualitative methodology. The data collected from the questionnaire will be analyzed qualitatively using a non-statistical tool, coding. So coding is organizing and sorting data, summarizing and developing analysis, and that will be coded through the QDA Miner software. And this is a easy to use qualitative data analysis software. And so we're going to devise a communication plan to discuss the best ways to display the findings once analyzing the data. And then you'll have data visualization such as line graphs and charts. So the information gathered will be used to determine the effectiveness of in-home based treatment and the success of keeping the research participants in less restrictive settings post-discharge. So the purpose of my theory testing will be, again, to utilize a qualitative survey research strategy through a questionnaire, and it's going to be open-ended. The questionnaire will be group administered, where all respondents will be asked to complete the survey together in one room. Participants will complete the questionnaire independently of each other with no group interactions. And this format will allow for questions to be asked if clarity on a question is needed and ensure a high response rate. So the questionnaire will explore topics around schooling, psychological and family dynamics, and community involvement resource allocations. The questionnaire will consist of 4 demographic questions concerning the placement of the child at the time of the referral and at the end of services, current placement, and the referral source. Prior to the distribution of the questionnaire, the evaluator will discuss the intent of the survey and ensure full confidentiality. Note that consent will be acquired twice during this process, at the beginning of treatment and during the discharge process. And this is to ensure that there's no change of mind, because the participants can revoke their consent at any time throughout the entire year without any retaliation. So if they wanted to come back to the diverse family services for additional treatment, they could. So the process will consist of implementing a system that offers follow-up with consumers and their families in increments following discharge of the service. And this phase will be based on 3 months post-discharge, 6 months post-discharge, 9 months, and then a year. Findings will remain confidential and used for the sole purpose, of assessing program implementation within the agency. And so the results are not going to be compared to other community-based agencies that also offer intensive in-home services. It's going to be strictly to highlight the effectiveness of diverse family services and their intensive in-home services. And this is going to be able to show the need for ongoing support as well as funding. So ecosystemic structural family therapy. This is their theory-based action on how they carry out their intensive in-home family services. So ESFT is a treatment for children and families who are experiencing behavioral or relational challenges. It's based on the theory that change in family structure contributes to change in the behavior of individual members. It begins with the fundamental assumption that both the child and caregiver functioning are linked to their relational environments at home and in the community. Treating the child within this model means working simultaneously with the child and family, the home setting, and the family's community network. So here is the questionnaire. This is the demographic section. Your referral, placement at time of referral, placement at end of referral, placement currently. And these are the open-ended questions. So what factors motivated you to attend or not attend your treatment sessions throughout the services? How are you using the knowledge and skills you learned from the program? What community resources were secured by the intensive in-home team post-discharge? What factors have led to the research participants' level of functioning to improve or worsen post-discharge? And lastly, what interventions are still being implemented within the home setting to encourage a therapeutic environment for the participant? Resources. So our research participants, of course, will be former treatment recipients because it's an extension of the evaluation tool already used. So we're going to use that same participant post-discharge. Gas cards will be allotted to research participants, so no budget allocations will be needed, and we're going to be requesting gas cards through community donations. So, of course, there are things to consider when looking at implementation, how it may not be successful. So if there are results that show that in-home therapy is not effective long-term, it may be due to the following: a gap of family-based interventions within the home setting, on a community level, which may affect the findings, or trouble with keeping the same pool of participants engaged after the 3-month mark. So there are 3 logistical considerations to keep in mind when looking at your evaluation tool: involvement, consistency, and accessibility. So we want to make sure that the family is involved because this is essential to gathering the data that we need to assess the program. Consistency, making sure that each phase occurs in a timely manner and the data is not skewed during the collection phase. And then lastly, that families may, accessibility, families may relocate or change their contact information, which may pose a gap in retrieving data. So these are 3 considerations to take into factor. Also, ethically, you want to look at making sure the rights and welfare of the participants are respected and protected. So again, we talk about confidentiality and program evaluations being only used for the purpose of looking at the effectiveness of diverse family services. Privacy, some data gathering techniques may be perceived as an invasion of privacy if prior consent is not obtained. So again, we have 2 times where we're ensuring consent is obtained. And then confidentiality, much information that subjects provide is given in confidence unless specific permission to use private information. So takeaways. So here's some takeaways. So we want to look at were the goals met? If they weren't, what key barriers were targeted? What was the most effective intervention and why? Did we miss any key barriers to improvement? Was the evaluation tool useful? Do we need to make some adjustment to the questions? And did the intervention produce results on their important outcomes, on other important outcomes instead? So we had a target in mind of things that we wanted to assess, but did other things come out of that evaluation that we may need to look at? So how are we going to disseminate this information, these findings that we collect? The intensive in-home team members will utilize the post measures to assess the application of effective discharge planning and sustaining the least restrictive consumers post-discharge. Outcomes will explore the consumer's level of functioning improved post-treatment. If outcome measure did not indicate improvements, then the treatment plan and interventions will be revised. And then monitoring the outcomes will allow the program to improve its success rate. Back to the stakeholders. So we want to ensure that we are engaging our key community stakeholders. So we will invite them to quarterly board of director meetings for an open forum. We will share the findings with them and the impact of intensive in-home services on keeping our participants in their natural home setting and the success rates within the school system. And then again, we need to remind them needs, goals, and action. We want to address additional concerns or questions, and some examples are, that's a good suggestion. We could try keeping it going forward and see where it helps. We did try that, and here's what we found. So when they give us feedback, we want to be able to have something to offer them. So next steps, so needs analysis for the next improvement activity. We want to apply what's been learned. And we want to set higher goals. We want to continue to improve and we want to be able to use the design to address other areas or problems within the agency. Thank you.